jackasses.
Yeah.
So.
That sucks.
Mhm.
There's no need
Oh,
for
it's
that. People
people.
are assholes. People can be
It
real
happens.
jerks.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one should have to go through that stuff. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Question for you.
please.
Do you ever do minis on your channel? Because one of my friends was asking because he like saw all the like things you posted. He also got that same pirate ship boat.
Oh yeah, from Reaper, the Reaper Bones 5 pirate ship. Yeah. So Bill the Master Crafter, one of my real good friends, is my talent. Like they'll say I have no talent in the artistic world, but we do have a lot of what would be called. Every couple months we hold a crafting jam.
Yeah, you have a crafting.
We have a jam
show,
session where we have some great names out there like Moonlight Minis comes in, like Disney, Bill, some sponsors like 3D companies and all. So yeah, we have some of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
But then you have several others that we're connected to that do painting. And,
yeah, the whole
and
crafting
paint.
community.
Like from
LinkedIn.
Mike Disney to several others
To
who
Reaper
come and game
Miniatures,
and
who
are here.
sponsors us, and,
Yeah.
and
Who
multiple
are regular
3D
on,
printers.
on the stream that do
So,
painting
yeah.
is their main thing or
Okay.
a large part of what they do.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, nice.
Bill doesn't. I mean, Bill's got 2 kids and is. Let me flip this here. And his time is limited, so he doesn't stream like just a normal, what we would say, a crafting paint session like that. But when we put our jams together, everyone's working on something, which is kind of cool. So we'll have everyone in 4 corners.
You
and
should
all-
do that more often. That should be a
Yeah.
monthly thing. But I know
Hey
that
Drake,
people are
good
busy.
to see you, man. Tim Enoch, good to see you. Getting rolling here.
Can they hear us now?
Oh yeah, we talk
They
over
can.
the ads.
Yeah, now they
Oh,
can't.
okay.
It's started, but
Yeah,
they can
it's a
hear us.
shtick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't
Oh,
hear the
hello.
music and all that in the background. So
Yeah, that's
they
running
can,
through
they,
the-
if they listen carefully, they can hear us now. Yeah.
Gotcha. I was like, who are
Yeah,
you
that's-
talking to?
Kind of the shtick that we have. It's with the community. So
Yeah.
we
Oh,
start
this
hitting out
is
some
really neat.
Thanks. Yeah, this is one of my 2 3D print companies that sponsor me. That's Infinite Dimensions Games, and
Wow.
yeah, we'll talk. We gotta get you in a game with all
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay is kind of the one thing is to run the Greyhawk campaign. The other side of I think that you really emphasize on the show is use of miniatures and terrain and all that stuff. Meaning you have a game table and stuff. That's
Right.
the other side of things that I think Jay's games are famous for, so to speak. One is the depth and how long they've gone on and how devoted to the Greyhawk setting. And then the other stuff is all the crafting and stuff that goes into it.
Yeah, I backed the Anchor printer. The Anchor 3D printer. Mine will be here till December, but one of my buddies already got his, and he's having such a good time with it.
So you will have a whole garage full of 3D printers doing cool stuff soon too.
Hey.
Yeah.
So I see you do a little painting on your channel too, which is cool. Yeah, absolutely. We like I said, Bill's really talented. The stuff that he does, like, we have that arena we have done in Altamira in our city, and we show a lot of really. We go harken back to the old wargaming days of old school D&D. I think that's kind of like the feel we try and bring to the game.
Oh, nice.
Playing in 1E2E rules, yeah. So
Yeah, because Painting Pirate, my buddy, he's primarily actually painting mini content. He does a lot of Warhammer and other content.
Oh, cool. Is he on Twitch and YouTube?
Yes.
I'll check him out. Gotcha, Tim. I'll re-VIP it for 2 weeks when I can. See now, what is the next button? How about this? There we go, Fortune works. Yeah, that's good. Hey, there we go, April, good to see you. So, Stiletto Assassin, April. Did I spell stiletto wrong? I spelled stiletto wrong in all the ads, April, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I put 2 L's in it for next Saturday's game. Sorry about that, jeez. Oh my god.
There's Stiletto. I believe I've seen Stiletto around my
With-
channel and a couple other channels.
Yeah, with Utayame Cosplay, I know they're friends. Diana, get the Coster. Yeah.
All right, my tweet. Oh,
Yeah, April's playing in a game Saturday, and I've had Brianna in, and she's great.
she's amazing.
Yeah, I know, April. I just, I'm a perfectionist there.
Don't worry. Today we discovered that Steve's Twitter name was misspelled in V3. And well, 'cause we had to update the overlays, and it's right on the end screen. It is not right on the live screen,
Oh,
which we just figured out today.
and how long was it there?
Today was episode 3 of
Okay.
season 14.
I mean, it's always like one of those little, like, and with Twitch, there's always like, do I have my title right? Do I have my sound settings right? I mean, it's like crazy, isn't it?
There's always
It-
something little
It's always
thing
something.
that it gets complicated. Yep.
Hey, Lord Forth.
Of the many ancient
Oh,
civilizations
there's always
of the
something.
world,
Or in my
none can
case,
surpass
or
the
today,
grand majesty
something happened with
ancient
OBS.
China.
We had to switch to guest
One of
star
the oldest and
mid-show.
longest lasting civilizations in the history of
And
the
then
world.
OBS
Going
decided,
back
hey,
over
you're back on
4,000
default
years.
everything.
Yeah.
Warlord
And
Games
I was
is
talking for
proud
10
to
minutes.
announce
You
our
know what?
latest
The
Mythos
chat
series
couldn't hear me, and I had no idea.
the Codex Sonar. The
And
Codex
for once,
Sonar
the chat
covers
didn't
the might
complain
and
about it, so I
profound
was
meaning
surprised.
of prehistoric and medieval
Yeah, I'm
China.
getting a new
both
computer very
historic
soon, so I
and
realized all
mythic
the work
for
I have to
castles and
install it,
crusades.
set everything up, and move things to.
With
to it,
almost
so-
200
And his
mythical
computer
Chinese
would
creatures and
will
over
explode
140
because it's
deities and heroes.
burning so
the
many.
Codex Sonar is filled
different-
with monsters,
I'll do so
gods,
much
3Ds,
rendering
warriors,
and
and
whatnot.
more
So
on the
yeah,
level
so
that we truly
I
have
need
to
to have
unfold the
a
narrative
beefier
through the
computer. It's
Chinese
almost
history.
5 years old
It
now. So
introduces the
Oh,
basics
wow.
of
I can
Chinese
still
martial
run
arts
games
and
really
is
well if I
complete
want
with
to,
key
but it
and the
doesn't
many
do
legendary
the
abilities
software I want to use
associated
for
with
map making and stuff. So
ancient complex
Yeah.
systems
Oh,
Range
that must
generation.
be.
spellcraft,
Ooh,
Yeah.
that must be
and
really
fortune telling.
beefy.
Even
yeah,
enchanted
so
charms
I
are
need
explored
to.
as
I'm
well.
going to. I have
Players can
8
live out
cores
their
in it now. I
characters'
need
adventures in
32. I'm
tales
going to
set
get to
in
and
popular Chinese fantasy
128
styles,
gigabyte
like
RAM, and
Wuxia
I need
and more,
really
Oh.
fast
while within a
SSDs, lots of them.
pseudo-historical
So
setting.
Be
yeah,
careful
and
with the
brought to
RAM
life
because
by
I discovered the
castle
hard
keeper or
way.
game
You can
master.
actually have too much RAM.
yes,
I did not know that until I
Researched
put
and written by
120
Brian
gigs in this
Young,
machine, and
the
then
wildly popular
I realized the
Mythos
bus
series
speed didn't match the
delves
bus
into the
speed it was
mythos of
running
the
didn't match
ancient
the
Yep.
bus speed on the
bringing
RAM.
hosts
and
my
you need to make
computer-
sure.
heroes,
Yeah,
legends
so-
and lore, and
Yeah,
even
you need
the
to make sure
monsters
that
and
all
foes
the
that
kits
plague
that you
peoples
buy
of
from the
ancient
same
times.
kits and the same
To the
batch,
stories
because if
that
they're
you
separate
create.
ones, they might not work together and stuff. So that's
The
that's
Codex
why I'm
Sonar
probably not going
brings
to
ancient
build it
China
myself.
to
I'm
your
actually going
table.
to
Join us
to have
and
it
pledge
custom
today.
built for me, because they can iron out stuff like that before I take it home, so it actually works.
Trollord
Oh no,
says,
this was I was
Join
at
the
Micro
fray.
Center and bought the same family of RAM.
Okay,
Just-
yeah.
The processor couldn't run it fast enough.
Oh,
So
okay,
it was running
yeah.
at 2400 bus speed. It downclocked and basically run.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh. Then I had all these other weird issues. Took out 2 of the sticks and it's been perfect.
Yeah, and it depends on the motherboard and the BIOS and stuff like that too. So yeah, you can have issues like that. And yeah.
Well, the BIOS was out of date. The BIOS was out of date, and then even with a newer CPU, it still was underclocking. So I just took out 2 RAM sticks. But a friend helped me out because I could not figure out what was wrong with my computer. I've been building them for like 20 years.
Yeah, I've built them up until now, but this one probably I need to have really advanced water cooling and stuff in it too. Otherwise, it will sound like a vacuum cleaner, and I don't want that. So therefore, I probably need to have someone building it for me. So yeah, I will be there picking up the parts though, so I get the parts out.
Yeah, I was on
What's up,
NVIDIA,
Josh?
but it would not let me build a machine without a GPU, so I got a GPU. I don't need one.
Yeah.
They will not let you do a custom, even like put it together. You're not going to buy without some kind of GPU in that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's why I probably have to wait a couple of weeks, because I want to see both with the AMD and now I have an NVIDIA 3080 Ti in there, but I want to get the latest series. So, but I'm waiting for
4090.
AMD. Yeah, or something, or AMD's latest. So I'm waiting, because the big decision is, should I go Intel or should I go AMD? So I want to see the AMD's latest graphics cards, so I can, because if those aren't as good as NVIDIA or some issue like that, then then because I will probably keep the 3080 or initially, but I want to see if I want to go AMD. If the graphics card is really well, then it might be a D7000. So we'll see. But on the other hand, if none of this is good, yep, I might want to go Threadripper still or something. But those are old, so I need something now. So we'll see. It's tricky.
Oh, I'm getting spammed.
That was good of you to remind me.
Hey, Rob, good evening. Rob, I gotta talk to you after the stream, man, if you're able to. What's up there, Katana? Hey, darling. See everyone's we're rolling in. Alrighty. Sitting in Lord Peakshaven here, gonna do a little more Gabbin here. 219th episode, Anna. Where did the time go?
Yeah.
My gosh.
Getting up there both for Gabbin and for Legends of Lore and stuff, so yeah.
Hey, Les.
Even the fantasy map to show up again.
Yeah. What were we
Even
at?
if you missed
16
one
or
month.
17 there?
Yep.
With Elizabeth.
Yeah, but next month we go. Yeah, that we would.
Coming in a second. We'll come always doing customarily 2 minutes early.
Okay.
I know, isn't it crazy there, Katana? Well, look at you, man, with that first, what are you, 41 months now?
Anna, is that person the person cover that?
I'm sorry. Whoops. See, look, there goes my first one button of the
yeah,
night.
I think so. Yeah, I think he was with us, or with Jay from the early start.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, my longest sub, not in my inner circle of friends, is 50 months now. Yeah, the Nasrat. If you see the Nas showing up, he's
Tim from Britain. He's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
young guy from Britain. Yeah, absolutely. So, good evening, welcome. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and my partner in crime is always the legendary Anna B. Meyer.
hello.
We have a very special guest tonight.
Yeah.
Love for Tanya to introduce herself. Tanya DePass. You may know her as her okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You may know her as Cypheroftyr on Twitter and in all other forms of social media. Tanya, welcome. Good evening.
Hello. How are you?
Doing wonderful. The Eagles won today, so I'm really happy. You know, being
Okay.
that Philly fan. Yes, but been really looking forward to this discussion. And I had a research person help me out a little bit, less Oblivion, thank you. And man, we found out some really cool things in some articles you wrote, and I'd love to discuss your input to the tabletop community and the D&D community. A little bit about Anna. Why don't you we probably have some new viewers. Talk to the community about like yourself real quick, and where you come from, as far as what how long you've been involved in what we do here. Go ahead, Anna. Just
Okay.
so Tanya knows a little bit about you, and then I'll do my 10 seconds.
So I've been a D&D gamer for 40 since the early 80s, or like 79, 80. So I'm the first generation gamer, so to speak. I grew up in Sweden and moved to California 10 years ago, and mapping was my thing, so to speak. So I realized that's where it was fun. So I love maps and cartography. So I started working on creating maps for my D&D campaign almost 30 years ago, and then 20 years ago I started making a new Greyhawk map, and I started using a lot of digital tools and stuff, and I kept doing it, and then the internet came around and I put it out there, and it took some years, and then people started to pay attention, and I got a little bit of following, and people started telling me what was wrong and stuff, so I kept working on the map, making it better and better. 10 years ago I moved, 11 years now, so I moved to California, and then I had needed something to do, so I started doing fantasy cartography full time, and then I've been working on. I've done a lot of stuff for Cobalt Press and probably about a dozen other game publishers over the years, small and big maps and stuff. I've mapped Midgard for Cobalt Press in series of maps and stuff, and I worked on my Greyhawk maps, and here I am, so to speak. I just love to doodle in it, and I run a Patreon and stuff, and I go to conventions, and yeah.
Nice.
We get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
Well, not
and
really.
I'm part of the LGBTQ community too, and I'm a libtard, so to speak. So yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
you are.
coming from
Yes,
one of the
but
most liberal countries on the planet. So I end up in that sense, so to speak. I sense back in Sweden, I was in the middle of the road, and here I feel like, oh, I'm on the progressive side of things. So and now it's in election terms, so I'm
there
out
you go.
knocking doors for a congressional candidate and stuff like that too. But that's beside the point here. So mapping and fantasy cartography and D&D and Greyhawk and stuff is part of, it's my day job now. So, and that used to be my hobby. Yeah.
And for me, for some reason in 1980, when I was 12, 13 years old, I just said, I started playing in 78. I'm going to start logging these and make a campaign setting in Greyhawk, the Order of Ulick. 978 adventures later and 3,300 sessions later, still going with the same group of friends. So we've been playing for that 42-year span. And thank you there. Thank you so very much, Rob, for doing that for Tanya. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
And it's been a great ride, and we got involved in early 2018, and paid our dues on Twitch. It was a grind, and have really come together with some. We try and really have been growing our Greyhawk community, and there's a lot of wonderful people, and we just really happy that you're here, and thank you so very much. So, Tanya, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the world of gaming.
I too am an old school gamer. I'll actually be 15 early next year. You know, dealt with the Satanic Panic, all of that stuff. Had to, kind of hide that I was playing D&D because of that. Started with, Redbox, came in and out of D&D. Actually, I'd left after a very long campaign of 3.5, and then came back because of Greg Tito asking me to be on Dragon Talk and asking me about D&D and how I played, and got back into 5e because of that, because he very kindly sent me like the initial source books. And also the iconic human was a dark-skinned black woman in paladin armor. So I was like, wait, maybe D&D has gotten a little better.
Yeah.
Somewhat. We're still working on that. Fast forward to 2018 when Realms of Waterdeep started, and again, Greg reached out and said, hey, we're putting a show together. Do you know some people? It will be in Chicago. It will be in studio or however you want to do it. And we premiered it on June 1st at Stream Many Eyes. And Rivals is still going 14 seasons later.
Wow, that's awesome.
And along the way, I've joined several games. I've done a lot of charity games, a lot of one-shots. Black Dice Society just wrapped a couple weeks ago. We got to 60 and a half episodes. We're counting the Gary Con sneak peek as a half episode. And I'm a longtime video gamer as well. Grew up in arcades, stuff like that. Also a Twitch partner, Twitch streamer, and my content is anything from RPG stuff, GM prep, painting minis, making dice, or just playing whatever game catches my fancy. Let's see. The rest of it is right time, right place, as I say, lightning in a bottle moment. The hashtag I Need Diverse Games started in 2014. And
yes.
yeah. And it was right time, right place. And within a year and a half, that was my full-time gig because I lost my day job. And, I got to do interviews, do things like that. I had my own podcast for a little bit. And last year, a movie about my work premiered at Tribeca. I've been in a museum exhibit at the V&A called Design, Play, Disrupt. I've spoken to the Smithsonian, been a guest at conventions, do a lot of panels. And now I, too, do use gaming as my day job.
Cool. Excellent.
Fantastic.
So,
yep.
If I read correctly, Ubisoft really perturbed you when they said we don't have time to render the female character for Assassin's Creed. Did that really get it started? Yeah.
Well, that was part of the annoyance, but it was also, so that year, I actually gone to the Game Developer Conference with a friend who wanted to start getting into the industry. She's an artist. We went. It was great. We saw a lot of games. And, E3, at that point, I think they streamed some of E3 or just all the announcements that came out of E3. Later that year, we're seeing just game after game with this straight white dude protagonist. Right. There's no people of color. There's no obviously queer people. Basically, people like me don't get to exist in games easily. And it just irritated me. And I think it was seeing one more game plus the Ubisoft thing. I just tweeted about, I need diverse games. And again, it was right time, right place. Unfortunately, a lot of people attribute what I did to Gamergate and bucking up against it. I didn't care about Gamergate. I don't care about those dudes. Can I swear? I didn't ask
Yeah,
them.
sure. Trust me.
Good.
Trust me.
Thank
That is
you.
good.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yes, that's awesome.
I should have asked that before we went
That's
live.
okay.
I didn't think
You're
about it.
good. You're good.
So, fucking Gamergate. These people, they basically wanted gaming to go back to being like 18 to 30-year-old white dudes in their mom's basement. They didn't want people like me or like Anna to be part of the gaming conversation or be there. Like, I'm not able to go play a game in peace once they hear that I have a feminine voice. And I actually wasn't thinking about them at all. It was just more of a, where's the representation? Where's brown people? Where are women that actually live through the game? They get to be the hero,
right?
Beyond Commander Shepard, And, again, right time, right place. A lot of people retweeted it. It trended. It turned into its own thing. If you look for those original tweets, it's actually on my account before it got its own account, its own blog, podcast, and just kind of went from there and grew into its own little monster.
And I want to point something out that Les Oblivion Seeker pointed out to me that I was not aware of, me being ignorant. He says that, like Les said, in like Heinlein book, the great science fiction writer, the protagonist may have been a person of color, and then the cover would be someone. I didn't know that. I never.
Oh, that's such a common practice.
I never knew that at all. I mean, thank you, Les, for sharing that with me and just showing my ignorance on that. Yeah.
I believe, I don't know if it was Nnedi Okorafor, but another author that I follow made a point of making sure her book had a Black person on the cover. Mm-hmm. And people like, oh my God, how did you do this? How'd you get your protagonist who's Black on the cover? But she had enough pull at that point to do it. She had plenty of other books where we either don't see the protagonist, we get a landscape or what have you. You don't see the person. But here's the thing. Even when a character is explicitly Black in a text, people will still project however they want to see. Because the Hunger Games book, perfect example. Rue is described as Black. There's no mistaking she's a Black girl. Mm-hmm. And dark-skinned at that, if I remember correctly. And then the movie came out, she was dark-skinned and Black. And people acted like their favorite stuffed animal had been ripped apart in front of them. And it was like, but did you read the book? Did you read the same book I read? Because I know what I read. So
it opened my eyes, and I appreciate Les you telling me about that. I would, Rings of Power, Gabriel. I see.
That's an interesting discussion because here we see Rings of Power, meaning we have all fictional characters and fictional races and species and whatever you might describe them as, creatures that don't exist in the real world, played by various people of various ethnicities and all that. And it's kind of funny when they start saying that a completely fictional creature is played by, they don't look like that. To me, it's kind of weird because they don't exist in the real world. But it might be, I'm not a Tolkien scholar of any sort, so to speak. I enjoy the movies and I read the books, but that it kind of stops there. So I don't know what Tolkien might have described these creatures in certain terms in some books that I don't know about, so to speak. But to me, it was that was the most, there's things of the Rings of Power that I didn't enjoy much, but the diversity of the cast was something I really enjoyed. This, especially the dwarven, the wife of Dorin is, she's awesome. She was the best character in the whole series. She really lifted it to me. Her spirits and stuff were fantastic. So I think that was a good example. But I can understand why some Tolkien freaks were kind of aficionados and fans were kind of disappointed with the series because they might see a lot of flaws I don't see. Yeah.
So the people that are mad about Tolkien, I'm just going to say this and get out of the way early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tolkien was a fucking racist.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so was the guy who wrote Cthulhu.
Oh, that I've heard. Yeah, I've
Oh
been
yeah,
read
I mean
any
he named
Cthulhu,
his
so I
dog
have
a
no.
slur.
Yeah.
He named his
Yeah.
dog a slur. So let's just be clear.
Well, then, yeah. So I've never read, but Tolkien I can understand from his the time and era he wrote
Correct.
the stuff in. Yeah.
Okay, that was the time and era, but it is
Yeah.
2022. It's about to be 2023.
Exactly. We should scrutinize and at least acknowledge it, so to speak, and say where it comes
And
from.
you know, but also at the time, you like we're at a point where we can have people of color playing fantasy characters, fantasy creatures. I mean, look at how people got mad at The Witcher. Oh, it's The Witcher. It's Polish. There can't be black people and brown people because I believe an Indian woman plays Triss. Not Triss. I am losing all of my words today.
That's okay.
His other love interest, Yennefer.
Yeah.
And you know, she's still dark hair. She's still beautiful.
Yeah.
But there are people who are so married to the text, and they're so sure they know exactly what the author meant. The authors that have been dead forever and ever. Well, not in the case of The Witcher, but you know, they're so sure they know what the author meant, and this is desecrating the author's vision. It's 2022. Here's the thing: if you don't like it, if it bothers you that much, read the books and use your imagination. That is the end of.
So I hope that a product's made that is respectful and entertaining, right? So that, like, I've just been recently watching stuff like Picard. I love what they've done with the character selection and the storylines, and it's really good. And I with Rings of Power, I haven't delved into it yet, just haven't had time. But I'm hopeful that everything is starting to at least trend in the right direction when it comes to that. And but it's a really good point you make there, definitely. So so let me ask you some things here.
Okay.
I saw in as you you loved one of my favorite games of all time, Dragon Age.
Uh-huh.
And you said that when you got to Inquisition, that's when you decided to start streaming. So why don't you walk us through what your thought process was there when you got like, wow, I can do this and I can hit an audience with this.
I wasn't even thinking about audience. It's just I'm a big Dragon Age nerd, and I got a PS4 when it launched, and I got Dragon Age when it came out. And oh look, I can share this because I didn't have a PC that could stream. Well, and streaming wasn't even a thought when the first game came out, and when the second game came out, I wasn't a streamer. I wasn't anything else in that sense. And so I was excited because I knew about streaming, and once I discovered the PS4 could stream directly, and I didn't have to like go out and buy a brand new PC, I was like, I can stream Dragon Age and enjoy this.
Yeah, what a great game.
Yeah.
I when it got to the point where like, wow, you could build up your keep and you could do all. I was like, man, this is like groundbreaking. You know, as far as like the RPG video genre, Baldur's Gate 2, groundbreaking. Dragon Age Inquisition, groundbreaking. And then I'm going to say Pathfinder Kingmaker is really, I think, a fantastic game too. Just the way it gives me vibes of that Baldur's Gate era, just building up your characters and you can go all different sorts of directions. Yeah, exactly, Mandy. You can have relationships in the games, and the NPC interaction. So I was glad to see. I love Dragon Age. So how did it go? I'm going to tell you how it went for me the first couple months, right, Anna? I mean, it was rough. It was really rough.
Oh, when you started streaming?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But we all have. I remember when I did first. Yeah, but please, Jay, continue. Start with your experience of joining the streaming community.
Man, it was rough.
Yeah.
3 viewer average, 5 viewer average. It was real. I didn't know how to find a niche. Didn't know where I belonged. Right.
But you started streaming your home game, so to speak, around the game table. That was the start. So yeah.
That was it. That's where it started, and then I was like, you know what, a talk show would be really smart, and then our paths crossed, right?
Yeah, but then you already started gabbing, I think, because I remember I started watching a couple of gabbins before I came aboard, so to speak.
Yeah,
so,
it was like Gabbin 20, I think. At that time.
Where you discussed your campaign and stuff on Sundays, and now been with guests and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah.
So the question is, Tanya, when did the jump come from streaming video games, streaming Dragon Age to I'm going to really get involved in the community? I'm going to start, doing, RPGs live. Like, when did that happen?
Dragon Age was just, it was fun. I never thought I would
Thanks,
still
Aaron.
be streaming 8 years later. I never thought that
Yeah.
I'd get, affiliate didn't exist when I started streaming. I got partner 5 years ago. Actually, Wednesday is my partner anniversary.
Nice.
It was just for fun, because I was like, oh, I'll do this if I hate it. Oh well, I've done my one game. I hadn't really invested a lot in it. And streaming RPG stuff didn't really come to like 20 with Rivals. I didn't really have a setup to stream a show. I didn't have space to stream a show. And and I was looking at it initially as like, I get to go back into D&D. I'll be with people I know. I'll feel safe in an environment that I can trust. And doing other stuff like joining charity games kind of came along as I did more work, and people saw Rivals and we got some press. And then people, I guess, that had seen Rivals or heard me on other shows and talk about Rivals, because the conceit of Rivals was to teach people to play 5e, but it wound up being all people of color at the table. But that wasn't the intent. It was never the intent.
Okay.
It wasn't like, look at all these brown people playing D&D. It was, look at all these people learning to play 5e, because some of us have been playing a long time, and a couple people had never touched a D20 before our show. So we had all age range, all experience ranges.
I saw on your little video blurb you have on your Indiegogo that Greg Tito kind of did that as well, kind of pushed you into, hey, let's do this, and linked that into D&D or into WotC.
So he didn't push me. So Greg actually found me through I Need Diverse Games.
Okay.
He and I have become friends, and we would chat often. And he reached out, he's like, hey, do you want to be on Dragon Talk? I was like, sure.
Okay.
And it didn't click for me till like 2 days before I was going to be on the show that was like the D&D podcast.
Okay.
So it's like Dragon Talk, yes, D&D. This is what Greg does. It didn't like click for whatever reason until we were there. And we had a great conversation and it was the beginning of kind of talking about why I left TTRPGs and D&D and playing with people, and the racism in the RPG industry, and just at tables, and why I don't play games at Gen Con when I go. I don't play pickup games at any con I go to still. And, I'd been back on the show several times as Rivals kept going, as, like Dice Society happened, other things. Just having a chance to go back to the show and either video if I happen to be in Seattle, obviously pre-pandemic, or just calling in and kind of being on voice with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that some of the causes that you get involved in, and I'm not sure which is first. I apologize for that, but I want to share with you this. Here's this article. Where do we find a community as gamers? I mean, I'm assuming from this that you wrote, and this is from Uncanny Magazine. It just talks about what you had to go through, right? Your comfort level of finding a group to play with, and so if you want to, just if you could just chat about like what the experience was. I mean, it doesn't sound like it was that pleasant in some instances.
No, because even now in 2022, there's still people who are terrible. I don't know if you remember when someone wanted, like, they asked Paizo in the official forums to have a slave driver class. There's still people, like, we just still had the Hodazy incident in this year. There are people who want to keep their fantasy as quote unquote pure. It's just a game. Why are you bringing politics into it? It's like, I don't get to not be black. I don't get to turn this off at my convenience.
Mm-hmm.
If I could, I'm sure I would have a much easier time. So
okay.
I want to, I know I probably shouldn't, but I want to read I want to point out something that's said in the chat, because being harassed for playing D&D is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about being harassed because I'm black, I'm queer, and a woman.
Okay.
Being told that I don't belong at tables because I'm not a white dude. I too was harassed and called a nerd and chased down for playing D&D and liking video games. It is nowhere near the same thing.
No, and we know from we had Darlene on, and we know what she went through, right, Anna?
Yeah.
You know,
And
and
she didn't get
yeah,
hired, and she
yeah,
and she had to a lot of
we
hoops
understand.
and yeah, so in that sense, and yeah, so and I've
Yeah,
experienced some of it, but on the other hand, I had my kind of my I would say a thing that saved me from having that's two things, I guess. One is that I started gaming so early. So in the early days of gaming, we were all beginners. And then when a lot of other so-called dudes much later came in and said, oh, what the hell are you doing here, so to speak, and you don't know anything. I had gamed longer than they had usually. And so I was as nerdy, and I knew the game as well as anyone else sitting around the table. So that was one thing. And I also worked with men, and I've done stuff. So in that sense, I was ready for what's there, so to speak. And on the other hand, I'm also white enough, and in that sense, I can fit into to part white enough to not people don't pay attention to me. Now I have the weird thing of being the foreigner in here, for so to speak, and English is not my first language and stuff. So there's still a little bit of a stigma, but I rarely noticed any of that, so to speak. It's more fun when I do other stuff, like in flight simming community and other communities, and photography and stuff like that I do. There I receive way more of that kind of scrutiny and attention and stuff for things that has nothing to do with what we're there to do, so to speak. But in the gaming community, it's a safe haven for me now, thankfully.
Yeah,
So,
and there and you know, and just the fact of every year when I do conventions, there's always like the 101 brown people exist too panels. There's always the how to be a better person, how to bring diversity to your games. It's like, why do we keep having to have the same 101 conversation?
yeah.
At some point, somebody needs to get past the brown people are people too. Just because I say that I am dark skinned and an elf does not make me a drow by default.
right.
If I, as a woman, want to play a character, don't try to make me the healer or the cleric and the whole, and there were too many people, and this is slightly tangential.
Okay.
But there was a panel I did at one of the first PAX Unplugged, and we talked about, kind of our journeys through RPGs and kind of things that we talked about and we brought up, I think it was even a question the audience brought up of kind of reasons why some of us had stopped playing. And one, sorry, I got distracted. I should stop reading
It's
chat.
okay. I know.
But I'm like, I'm also trying to like, let me not, because I'm a guest. I need to act right.
It's okay.
But one of the panelists brought up the fact that, she played WoW, she grew up playing WoW, and, people always try to relegate her to a cleric in the group. But at the tabletop, she often had DMs, usually white men, that would try to force encounters on her as a female character. And her breaking point was a DM that, without her consent, without talking to her, said that her character had been assaulted and was now pregnant.
This wasn't we had that on the one live stream about what, a year and a half, 2 years ago. That happened too. Was that a different incident, Tanya? If you know the one I'm talking about, where the guy went through the rate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's just bad gaming, bad DMing.
Can I ask a follow-up question to this? Sure. Meaning, do you think that, how is the tabletop role-playing game community stacking up compared to other similar ones, like video games and stuff? Oh, it's worse? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always been worse to me because they're, just like in the chat that's happening, there have been too many times where people have gone, but it's just a game. You shouldn't bring politics into it. You shouldn't bring this, because my character on Rivals of Waterdeep is an older Black woman. She's queer. She's dark skinned. I describe her that way. And there are people like, well, why, why is she like this? Or if I play an elf, like I played a drow in Black Dice Society, or in charity games, I've played an elf and purposely said, I am dark skinned, I'm not like, we're not doing the high elf, blood elf bullshit, but, I'm an elf. Mm-hmm. And, well, don't you mean you're a drow? No. And there's still people to this day, I've seen them as C2E2, walking around cosplaying as drow where they literally paint themselves black. So there are too many people that are always willing to throw in the, but it's fantasy. What's fantasy? Why are you mad that I'm playing a black character? There are dragons and orcs and everything else, but you're upset and tell me that I can't do this because I'm an elf or I'm what have you, and I describe myself as brown skin, and because I don't play into the stereotype and what you expect and what you, or you're like, well, that's what the book says. Well, guess what? Even Jeremy Crawford, who writes the rules of D&D, says they're a guide. They're not the Bible. They're rules to learn to play the game.
Yeah.
So,
And we can go all the way back to the original 1E Player's Handbook. And does anyone, for rules, does anyone out there use weapon speed factor besides Tim, of course? Or what? You know, there's just crazy stuff. You know,
that was just one of the things that we. Yeah, but it also states that from now on
you
the game
need
is
to.
yours. Meaning
Yeah.
you bought the book, you read it, and now you
Absolutely.
take it and you make it your own, so to speak. That both, I think it's both in the Player's Handbook and DM's Guide first edition, and it's in the Greyhawk book too. That in the setting books that here is Greyhawk, make it your own kind of thing. So I think that's the idea of that you should kind of tweak it so it suits your because I think we all, or at least some of us, I know I do, that I use my D&D gaming as a sort of therapy for myself, both as a way of interacting with other people and stuff, but also to kind of in a way to get over issues in the real world and with myself and stuff. And I definitely know that I use my gaming as a way of coping with life better, so to speak. So I just try my best not to make it unleash it on others, so to speak. The other co-players and are not, whether I run the game or not, are not there to fix my problems, but I'm there to try and have D&D as a tool to fix my problems, so to speak, to just step out of the regular life and just have fun for a bit, so to speak. That's
yeah. And there's also the issue where people, I think of not even a proper way to say this, but there are people who, and I'm sure we've all seen them, where bleed is an issue, where they do terrible things and then they blame it on my character would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or they do things where it's like, or they want to bring stuff into the game where like, it's a fantasy. I want to have fun too. I don't want to deal with racism in the game. I don't want to deal with someone harassing me because I'm a drow. And people, like, no one did it in Black Dice, but like if you play Baldur's Gate 3 and you play a drow or a half drow, people notice and they give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Why do we need to still have that in 2022? You know?
Yeah, it's so there's God, I don't want to sound like Mr. Negative. There is just, the gaming world is going to have, just like any other, it's going to have people that are just won't listen or will not open up to other person's thoughts, feelings, beliefs. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have Tanya on tonight. I want to have these discussions. You know, we should. There's nothing wrong with being able to sit here as adults and talking about things. It helps us all. And
and also think that I also think that when these days now D&D and tabletop role-playing games have become mainstream, which means that we get scrutinized. We are not the odd ones in the basement anymore. We are now out fully and open and have a hobby that everybody knows about, even if they never heard or never played it. It's part of mainstream culture now, and that also probably makes us, whether we want to or not, that makes we have to be a bit more responsible, and not as individual gamers all the time, but also as publishers and stuff. They get scrutinized in a way that if you just publish something for 3,000 fans that sits in basements and not, but if you publish something for millions and there's a lot of money involved and you're a public company and you produce things for millions of gamers, that rightly gets scrutinized much more,
Yeah.
so to speak, and rightly so, I think. So that is something that needs to
Take
change.
care.
And also the demographic that plays the game and that produce the stuff have also vastly changed from small Wisconsin small Wisconsin town to now residing in global metropolises like Seattle and various other places, played by millions of people, and soon become, I think D&D is also really becoming a multinational thing, an international thing, meaning we have
Mhm.
now gamers from all over the world and stuff. And that's the other thing, meaning it's not an American thing anymore. It's truly a global phenomena, so to speak. And all these things makes, I think, especially when you publish games and stuff, you need to start thinking about, especially when you do mainstream stuff like D&D and other big games that are supposed to appeal and also be used by kids and stuff. So there's a lot of responsibilities that way.
Rob, that's a great point Phantom just brought up. If you had told 12-year-old me that 50-year-old me or 55-year-old me, right,
Yeah.
would be not only be still playing D&D and other tabletops, but would be able to play pretty much as often as I want, I thought you were pulling my leg. What?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great point. You know, uh, and back then, you know, we didn't know any better. We're 12 years old, whatever. But as time has come, it's something that you know, it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be in the open. And it's not hard to be a considerate, welcoming person. Simple, right? It's a
Yeah.
simple thing.
You would
Treat people
think.
how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But now I have another question, Tanya, is now, especially in COVID, we now have an explosion of online ways of playing tabletop role-playing games. And especially during COVID, that made it take off: virtual tabletop, Zoom, Skype, Discord, whatever, all these tools. How has that affected, from your perspective, so to speak, how has that driven the tabletop role-playing game community issues? Has it been a large positive and negative all over the place and stuff like that? How is this new technological platforms that we're starting to use, so to speak, and interact?
I think it's given more people an opportunity to put shows out.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to rent a studio. You don't need to all be together. You know, even Rivals.
Yeah.
We're not all in Chicago anymore. The first 7 seasons, we were in a studio in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were in studio pre-COVID.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
that's cool.
Had COVID not happened, we would still probably be in studio and hopefully still running. But you know, COVID happened, we had some cast changes, people moved away from Chicago, and now we've got most of our cast is still here, but 2 of them are East Coast.
Okay.
So I think it opened the door for a lot of people to do things they want to do without having to either be physically together and have a setup where they could stream, because other than Discord and things, there was no good way to remote game. It was either through like voice chat, text chat, what have you.
Yeah.
But now with Zoom, with Discord, with Twitch having a product called Guest Star, there's no reason that your game can't be remote, whether or not you're streaming it, and B, that it can't be diverse. Because the excuse I always got was, well, we're friends, we all live in the same area, it's really hard to get new people.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, don't you know any brown or black people who live in your area? How does that always get to be the excuse of, oh, well, I don't know anyone to ask? And now there is no good excuse to not have a game that is global. You know, I know that what is the name? Wayward Revelry, because I'm gonna mess it up because I always trip over the name. Is a game with friends that are in it, but one of the players is in India. That could have never happened without online gaming.
Yeah.
But yet we still see a lot of games, there's still majority the same 5 white dudes, and it's their stream, and it's someone together. It's like, the internet is a global place. You can find anybody else. You can find one person of color too.
So, Tanya, I'm guilty of that. I play Thursday night with my friends of 42 years, the same ones we played on Thursday night, but then my Saturday night games and all. We have a lot of other guests come in and we play, and we have had a great guests of all sorts and of all different, and people who've never played old school, and that's a thing too. You know, get those 5 years. Like, what do I do? I don't even know what to do. And I was like, just roll the dice. It's not that hard. 1E2 is not a hard thing. But like my Thursday night game is a bunch of old white dudes and they're sitting around, well, walking around the table playing, because that's what we, it's all in person. We all come here.
But you're lucky. You kept your original game group for decades, many decades now. Few of us, if any, are that fortunate enough to play with the people that we learned to play the game with originally, so to speak. It's
since we were 12, and Tim, the ever mysterious Tim's on now, and he's one of them. And but we've branched out into other things. We've branched out into talks like this. We branched out into having these special events. So it's like it's there's room for the friend group, and there's room for opening it up to everyone. Opening up. There's nothing at all wrong with a little bit of
and
everything.
And the way I see it is that modern technology have made that, like Tanya, like you said, that the it's much easier to get in on playing games in that sense, because the options are so much more varied and in that sense. But I'm starting to see one other thing that might be a problem for some is the cost of playing role-playing games have gone up, so to speak. And that's another aspect that I think is kind of something that bothers me a bit, because now all of a sudden, in order to be a cool D&D gamer, you have to invest a serious, or most other role-playing games, you have to invest a serious amount of money, so to speak. And that's fairly easy for us who have middle-aged, fairly affluent, and have had careers before and stuff like that, and so we can invest a few thousand a year and stuff, but that's not everyone who can, and they might be some of the most awesome creators and game DMs and players and stuff who don't really have the means to invest in it, and that's, I think it's one of the and I'm guilty. I'm a creator of stuff. I give away most of the stuff, but we is sometimes, I think, present a way that you need to have all these kind of cool tools and toys and stuff in order to play the game, and which is not all you really need are dice and pencils and paper and an internet hookup or a bunch of people around the table, which is something that I think sometimes get lost. And so depending on your game style, what kind of props do you want or need or make use of?
Great point, Les.
Yeah. So I think that's something to, sorry. What?
Oh, so go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, please. Yeah.
I actually just dropped it in our Zoom chat. It's funny you bring this up because a friend of, our producer, but also our friend, the Rivals, just had Urban Bohemian, who I saw in chat, myself, on to talk about the cost of producing an actual play show. And, theater of the mind is what Rivals has always done. We would have props on the table when we were in a studio, but it was never... Like, we had a dice cam, but it was basically to show the dice as our sponsor, but we didn't follow every single roll, things like that. And it was all theater of the mind. Like, when we were in Avernus, we had a war machine. It was just on the table as a prop. The only time we've done anything fancy like that is when we played at PAX last year. I don't think it's hard to say because it's going to sound... It might sound contradictory because we just did this talk about how much it costs, but outside of the cost of creating a stream, your overlays, your stuff like that, especially if you're all remote, you do not have to have minis, you don't have to have maps, you don't have to have that other stuff. If your theater of the mind is good, because streaming your game, as I'm sure you know, is very different than your Thursday night game sitting around with your buddies. You can get up, you can walk around, take a break, order pizza, get beer, do whatever. Versus performing, which is what you're doing on stream. True. We have Rivals is a 2-hour show. We have finite time every week for 10 weeks to tell our story and get to a conclusion, because we also rotate DMs, so we need to leave it at a point where whoever's next can come pick it up. So it's very, very different in terms of people feeling like I need to get like $4,000 cameras, $500 mics, stuff like that. What you need to do is, if your audio quality is good, even if your video is a little wonky, as long as people can hear you clearly,
Yeah.
and you're accessible, like you have almost the captions, well, closed captions. So if someone's like watching, but maybe they can't have audio on, or they're hearing impaired, or what have you, um, realizing that you can do a good show, it's going to still cost you some money, but you don't need to go whole hog. You don't need like a full dining table full of maps and minis and terrain. You don't need that. If you
Yeah.
do that, cool. If you've got the space and the time and the
Mhm.
production time to set all that up every single week, dope, go for it.
Yeah.
But the hobby is not cheap. And I keep telling people that
Yeah.
because even with Motherlands, because I too used to go, why did RPG books cost so much? Now I
Mhm.
deeply know why RPG books cost so
Yeah.
much.
Mhm.
Let's talk.
So,
I'm going to flip over to your Motherlands Kickstarter, which is amazing.
Yep.
Here we go. So,
mhm.
so Tanya, if I may ask this question, I know I saw the fifth season RPG was being developed for NK Jemisin, and then I saw that it was going to be published by Green Ronin. Then I kind of lost it in. Did that?
COVID happened.
It just it.
It's
Oh,
it's
Oh.
still in production,
okay.
just COVID happened.
Okay.
Everything's behind.
Okay. Okay. Because I was wondering if that turned into Motherlands, but you're saying it's a whole separate project,
Yep.
which that's exciting. This is pretty amazing. So is it you and Dave as the main two on this? Or it was a whole.
Well, up at us and B Dave, Eugenio Vargas is one of our writers, Gabe Hicks, and our team is about
Here we go.
when you include all the artists. This is mostly people that were involved in the first season of the AP and then in starting to develop the game. When you include all of our artists and everyone else, we're about a 30-person team putting this
Oh
together.
wow. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Hey, books don't make themselves.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's impressive. And what? When did you just like? How did it come about? Like, did you like, let's do this? We can do something really exciting. Like, you know, time frame wise, was it like 2018, 2017? You said you and Dave and everyone's got together and said we can make something really special here.
So Motherlands premiered in 2020,
Okay.
and that happened. So the actual play came first. Um, I was pitching some ideas to Twitch, and I threw out a few ideas, and they're like, well, there's D&D everywhere. You can't throw a rock and not hit D&D. And what about sci-fi? Because I'd actually pitched the idea of the Star Trek RPG, like a show on my channel doing that, and they're like, well, I guess there's IP or some kind of issues with what have you. So they're like, no, we can't really do Star Trek RPG. What about telling your own story? And I was like, sure. So B Dave and I sat down and said, okay, what's our pitch? We have finite time to make it. We have to do 12 episodes, 3 hours each. We have to give them 36 hours of content before the end of the year. Here's our proposed budget. And we sat down, we thought about it, because I was going to be a little tongue-in-cheek, a little more modern with, we're tired of the world we all left. We being most of the brown and black people, like nobody's masking during COVID, stuff like that. He's like, that's a little too on the nose, a little too current. What about this idea? Have you heard of Mansa Musa? And I was like, sure, I've heard of Mansa Musa, as I lean over to Google because I'm a terrible history student.
Okay.
I freely admit I almost failed history several times. I'm not great at it. But he was Emperor of Mali, still one of the richest people in history.
Yep.
And historically accurately, even though I hate that phrase more than life itself, he sent an expedition to the Americas that never made it. And they just never made it. He said, what if that expedition, through hand-wavy, timey-wimey reasons, went through a wormhole, landed on this planet we're now calling Vitoa, and fast forward 3,000 years, and this is their story.
Okay.
His descendants of Mansa Musa have now integrated into Vitoan society.
Mhm.
And that was our story. And B Dave, Eugenio, Jasmine, Gabe all made it work. B Dave often said that it was like the Wallace and Gromit gif of putting the track down as you're going. So that's pretty much what development was those first few weeks. But we realized by the time we finished, and we'd gained people who like really want to see more and know if there's going to be a second season. We said, what if we make this an actual game people can play? So we planned it out and said, okay, middle of the second season, we got all our ducks in a row. B-Dave put together the Kickstarter along with someone he works with often. Said, okay, here's our options. Bare minimum, we can do 50 and put out a book. Hopefully orders and things like that would make a difference. And we put stretch goals. He put the whole Kickstarter together. And I absolutely did not expect it to fund in 90 minutes.
It's awesome.
And I kind of ran around my living room in circles because I didn't expect it, because historically projects by people of color either barely squeak by, they normally don't fund that quickly and so well.
Right.
We actually ran out of stretch goals and had to make more.
Oh,
So fantastic.
That's an interesting problem to have. Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Might be tricky.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So
Well, the good thing, it's Herculean, right? Because now you're like, wow, this was so, and I can only, Anna and I are right in the middle of doing something right now with everyone knows, with Choler Games. So I $360,000. That is unbelievably impressive, and I wish you all the best of luck. I know in the last, you just put out a recent update. I know it's like running just a little bit behind, but you're going to have a product out that you're going to be proud of.
Yeah. So when you think that seems like a big number until you start spending that money,
right? True. It's not Star Citizen money, right, Tanya?
if you got Star Citizen money, you would get an anime, you'd get everything.
Yes.
But it was a couple factors. One, and the licensing agreement that Cortex put out is not a secret. They put out a public license agreement, and that was not going to work for us. And we said, okay, we're just going to make our own mechanics. That's much harder than you might think, especially for someone as mathematically challenged as I am. But luckily, we have people like Eloy Lasanta and Daniel Kwan putting together the system.
Cool.
But we have to go test it. We have to go beat up on it. And we found that some people were like, okay, this is too hard. I don't like it. And we had to keep going back and changing things. So we finally have a system that's we're using on season 4 of the show. Still a dice pool, but it's different enough. And it is not different enough. It is different from Cortex because we reincorporated D20s into it, but as crits, not so much as you roll a D20 and that makes your decision. But making a game system is actually pretty hard. And I found out in this process, you cannot copyright or trademark a game system.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did not know that until this project.
It's amazing.
So how was it to change rule system in the middle of the show, so to speak? What was that?
Well, so the
well
third,
received?
we'd had a big gap between the third and fourth season.
Okay.
So we had time to, because we also had to get it in a good enough shape once we'd signed a contract with Twitch to renew. We had to have it in a shape where we could play it. And this is like, it's almost like a live beta test in front of however many people.
Yeah.
Because we've lived with this for now 2 years. So you know how you look at something and you're tired of looking at it, but you can't look away from it because you got to make sure it works.
Yep.
But what's interesting is that when we made the public announcement, because backers had known the game was not going to be out this September for a while if they read their email. But when we did the public post, we had people who were clearly backers ask for refunds, and I'm like, but we told you all this months ago.
Yeah.
This was just more of a public acknowledgement of, hey, it's clear this game ain't out yet. And there were people who asked for a refund, and one of the most ridiculous reasons, well, there's one ridiculous reason and there was one that was just frankly insulting. One was, my gaming group will have fallen apart by next year. I'm like, that sounds like a you problem, but okay. Sorry,
Tanya gets pulled into the chat.
No, I'm just like, I'm sorry, but that's not the definition of racism. Please go buy a dictionary. And speaking of racism, that was also one of the core conceits for Motherlands, is that there is no history of colonialism. There is no history of slavery, because colonialism is at the heart of a lot of games. There's a lot of, go save the noble savages bullshit. So that was something we all made sure as people of color was not in the fabric of this game.
Yeah. Awesome. it's impressive, and you know, I know a couple of community members right in chat said they'd be looking forward to it, and especially when you got some live streaming going on it as well. And that was one of the other things that a question came up about. I don't want to go, you know, beat the dead horse, community, please, but inclusivity. What's the difference between playing at home with your friends? If you're streaming it on Twitch, there you got a little bit of responsibility there. There's, you know what I'm saying? Do whatever you want.
Responsibility how?
Because if you are doing a public platform, like for me, if I'm doing something and I expect income revenue from this, or I expect people to enjoy it, I need to do the right things. I do. You know, Anna and I have, you know, we butted heads here and there. Not as much as Tim and Anna butted heads in discussions,
God, yeah.
right?
Yeah, but that's another thing. Yeah.
But you know, I need to do the things to be respectful, to be inclusive, and to you know, grow the community beyond what everyone says. Like the Grogner community is, which I am. You know, and I hope I'm not a grognard, that I'm not a gatekeeper. I understand. I'm not a 5e player, but you know, everyone can play what they want. Everyone can play D&D however they want. But there are things that you know, as a gosh, an all-star player, whether they want to be or not, they may be considered a role model, right? A football, you know, pro football player, for example. I had the same feeling. I don't want to be here just streaming and being, you know, someone that I want the community to grow and look up to what we're doing and be proud of it. Does that make sense at all, Tanya? Did I say that right?
It is, but okay, but your stream should be that regardless of your content.
Yeah.
You should have a welcoming, inclusive community no matter what you're putting out on Twitch. And, you know, you keep saying you're not a grognard, you're not a grognard. What is it? I need to know, what is your definition of a grognard? Because I know what mine is.
Well, all right, let me rephrase that. I'd rather use the gatekeeping term. There's two differences. Well, maybe there's not, but someone who doesn't want to be open to new ideas in D&D, and it's like, my way is the right way, your way is the wrong way. That's what I tend to see as a gatekeeper or a grognard. But that just doesn't makes no logical sense. You know, for our community, our Grail community, that's not the case, because we have 5 years playing, and they play the way they want. No two DMs are alike. None in the entire world are exactly alike, and that's the wonder of this game, is that I can play, I can DM my style. Someone else can DM playing in Pathfinder, or playing 3.5, or playing even 4th edition.
Yeah.
Playing Castles of Osric. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, you're also doing something that I think most DMs that run long-term campaigns do, but you do it on a different scale, and that's homebrewing your own rule system. I'm starting to do that now, but Jay, you've been doing it for decades, and you kind of taken D&D first, second edition, and made it into your own version of AD&D, and which is, it's kind of also in a way what you did with the Motherland, when you figure out, oh, we need to make our own rule system. So you tweaked the whole game experience in to suit you and your gaming buddies that you had for decades, and then you come online and now you introduce that gaming to a bunch of other players and stuff. But to me, it's a bit like, I can sense, I'm not experienced game streamer, I'm not an experienced DM when it comes to conventions and stuff. I usually only ran it for people I knew at home, or then lately online. So to play in public, so to speak, is not my strong suit at all. But I'm starting to get, you know, and to me, the big difference between when you run with people you've known for years or even months, and you play with, is that when you go to a convention and strangers come to the table, you don't know them, so to speak, and it's that kind of unknown, and it's a bit like when you go to meet new colleagues at work, or go to a convention just talking about things, or you meet a stranger on the street. You have to kind of establish that connection together, so to speak, and to me, that is kind of, you have to be extra welcoming and so on, so you don't end up talking politics the second sentence that I might be my pitfall at times. But to me, that's my
okay.
experience, is that it's the level
Right.
of, they don't trust me, so I need to earn their trust
Yeah.
more. The friends that I played with for months and years, they already trust me, so to speak. They know where they have me, and they can speak frankly or something, because they know I can take it or not, so to speak. But strangers don't know that, so you need to establish a rapport or trust, and that's tricky. Yeah.
So I know you have you got a lot of projects going on, and the one I I don't know if this is something that, but I noticed, Tanya, with maybe you know something we don't, that Hasbro WotC is pulling everything in house, including third party D&D presentations. Is that what's happening? Because
No idea.
you don't know, because
I don't work there. They
I
don't tell me anything other than
well,
the last communication I got was, "Hey, here's the last of the money for your show. Good luck."
okay, okay, and we're talking about Rivals on that.
Mhm.
Right, Black Dice. Did you all decide to end that one,
Yeah,
or
we talked about it, and and B Dave was like, "Hey, we have X number of episodes left to kind of tell the story. We want to wrap it up." And also, we just had a couple people who's just, by the time we were close to the end, their schedule conflicted, so we lost 2 cast members as well. And so it just worked out that we're able to wrap it up in a way where it left an opening, but we kind of have if anyone ever comes by and says, "Here's money to resume Black Dice Society," there's a way to kind of go back and pick it up from where we left off.
okay?
And
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go
I
for
was
it.
going to say, I have one other question that I'm dying to ask you about, and because we are so much Greyhawk fixated here in this. Greyhawk is one of the things that people that come to this show and we watch and that I work with stuff. So we are very we are edition neutral, but we are setting focused, so to speak, in our approach to playing. So Greyhawk is the thing that keep us together. I was thinking, how do you see game settings, and how do you think that D&D will I'm thinking now we have Dragonlance coming out from Wizard and stuff. Where do you see that the traditional old setting that you play in sort of a fictional determined place with its creatures and habits and all that, or do you see D&D want to, and where is your stance on, meaning how is the setting as a concept important to you, and where do you think Wizard and the tabletop hobby will land with the setting as a concept, so to speak? For some players it's not interested in all, and others are very focused with it.
So kind of like with Spelljammer, there are people, when Spelljammer came out, a lot of people didn't care about it, but then when they announced the remake, everyone's like, "Oh my god, Spelljammer, I get to go to space." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
Cool. I guess we're going to space. And I
Yeah.
feel like for people who remember these older settings that are getting a redo,
Mhm.
they're gonna be super excited, but then we know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be the gatekeepers who sit there and
Yeah.
complain, and they're
Yeah.
already complaining and nitpicking. Well, why is it like this? This is missing out, and why did you change?
And we are the worst in the Greyhawk
We're
community.
scared to death.
We are the worst when it comes to that.
Yeah.
All the other ones, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the
But
other
here's-
ones in detail,
okay.
but we are probably the worst offenders when it comes to that.
Yeah,
True, but Greyhawk, you still can play Greyhawk. No one's stopping you.
exactly.
Exactly.
You
Yes,
know,
that's
True,
what
true.
I'm trying
Play
to tell
it.
myself and
True,
others,
true.
that we can continue
I've
to do it. Yeah.
I diverted 42 years ago, Anna, my Greyhawk in 1980. So, and what was
Yeah.
out the folio?
Well,
That was
I mean,
it.
But that's the thing too, where people
Yeah.
like they get so bent out of shape when there's any change. It's like, I'm sure you can find these books. Some of you probably still have your original books,
Mm-hmm.
or like when movies get remade, like Ghostbusters, and people acted like it was the end. Their childhood was ruined. Cats and dogs sleeping together. I'm like, the original Ghostbusters movie's still on DVD.
Yeah.
You know, you can still watch it, right?
Yeah.
No one took it away. They didn't delete the old game, the old movie when this one came out. So the people who love the old version can still go play it if it bothers them that much.
Yeah.
Go play your old version and go be in your corner somewhere.
Yeah, and I try to tell myself and realize that it's already happened, meaning Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms and the other setting, they've already had several upheavals through the history. And you can, to me, now in hindsight, I like that they are different versions. The original Gygaxian Greyhawk, the Carl Sargent era, the Paizohawk era, the Living Greyhawk. To me, they have all brought in things that have been problematic, but they also brought in a lot of things that are cool. So that means that I can cherry pick from a rich diversity of Greyhawk products. So in some sense, I'm dreading like, oh, don't publish anything, don't upset the current. And on the other hand, it's like, what if they do something cool that I can put in my game? So most of the time, I'm like, don't touch my Greyhawk. And then I realized that that's what I would have said about Carl Sargent in 1985 when I played Greyhawk for 3-4 years. Don't touch it. But now afterwards, I realized there's a lot of cool stuff he did that have actually added to it. So now it's thank you, Tanya. You make me think more from two perspectives,
well,
so to speak.
And a lot of that, a lot of that is just some of us change is tough, right? It's just for some people. Now I'll say this. I think that with Greyhawk, with all the issues that they've had with, who owns the rights to live in Greyhawk modules and all that, it may never happen, right? Because of all that, because of all the legalities. But we'll see. Time will tell. But I know this: if a new book comes out, it's not gonna change my campaign. It's not gonna change Les's campaign or Rich Longitalis's campaign. It's not gonna change them. We may pilfer one or two things from that book. I when Candlekeep Mysteries came out, and we all love Ed. Ed's a great friend of the show, and he's Ed takes it in stride with Forgotten Realms. Ed's like happy-go-lucky. When Candlekeep Mysteries came out, and Tony Winslow Brill wrote that great Xanthoria adventure, and I was like, my gosh, I can take this, cut it, boom, right into my Greyhawk, super high-level adventure, and I ran it. And that was a 5e publication. So you find stuff in books that may not. In places, and it's a cool thing. Thank you for that sub, really appreciate it. So it's a good question. So I know that, and I've been hitting you up with this shout out, Tanya, as we go here, but so let's talk about if you are okay with that, about Rivals. I hit the wrong button. Everyone give me the wrong button thing. There you go. See, this is my production value. So we even have an emote for it, Tanya.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the emote wrong button, because it always happens once every show at least. There's a wrong
my Stream Deck, I hit the wrong button. So
I need to steal that.
It's
all
so
the
funny.
time.
Yep. Yes, an emote for a turtle too.
Yes, because my Philly South Jersey accent, I say turtle instead of turtle. So you're up to turtle hit points, and boom, the turtle emote comes out like crazy. You'll be seeing that soon. So giveaways tonight.
Yeah.
$25 gift certificate from our sponsor, Troller Games. Okay. And then also, we're so close. We're going to get to 9,000 followers. We're like 4 or 5 or 6 away. Every 1,000 I do my favorite publication is useful. Best of Dragon. This is an original. This will be the 9th time I give one of these away, and we're going to do that tonight too. All right. So this is an original Best of Dragon Volume 3. Great resources in here. So there'll be the 2 things we do tonight. Sound good? All right. So everyone, please just exclamation point drawing. If you want to sign up, and there go all the turtles. And thank you, Tea Time with Taryn, for making those for me. Really appreciate it. So Rivals. I know. Your funding runs through next summer.
No, we are done with funding midway through the season. It is a shoestring and a prayer to get 2 more seasons, or at least 1 more season with us at level 20, because we're level 19 this season, and funding willing, we'll get a 2-season arc to finish telling the Rival story.
Okay. Well, I hope the best for you. Is this like Kickstarter, where if you don't make the goal, it's not a partial, it's an all or nothing? Is that
no? So that little flexible goal on there is no matter what we hit.
Oh, it says flexible. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the good thing with Indiegogo, if people are thinking about crowdfunding anything, the good thing with Indiegogo is you can say, well, one, a lot of people use it like, if like someone passes suddenly and they weren't expecting it, they have medical expenses they weren't expecting, and they actually now have a category for it, which is also kind of sad when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because thanks, U.S. healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also where you can say, hey, we want to fund a thing, but we know, and I know, especially after having done the Kickstarter for Motherlands, we would have to double or triple that to give people tangible things and still have the money we need for the show.
Okay.
Because you have to get stuff made, designed, shipped, etc. So we would have to ask for probably 100,000 or more to, if it was a Kickstarter,
Okay.
because then we have to give, because people expect stuff when you do a Kickstarter. So
right. Yep, with goals. Yeah, understood. So all right. So if someone gives to this and the goal's not met, it's if say you get to half of it, you may be able to keep you afloat for a certain amount of time.
right.
Okay. All right, cool. So just note that if you donate, the money will not get wasted, and you'll utilize it as long as you can. Is basically, which is a good thing. So, well, I wish you the best on it. And you said, let me re-shout it out again. Okay, there you go. And we'll continue. I'll keep that in my repertoire of shout outs as we're going, and I'll during and future shows too.
Yeah.
There, Tanya. So I and I know when I watch Rivals, let me put this out to the community. And I'm a big analytics person. It's a top 5 stream. I mean, it's like, Critical Role, and then you have high rollers, Rivals, you have that group that has a 500 plus viewer average, and it's a good show. So just letting everyone know, it's one of the top 5 D&D streams out there currently. So it's worthwhile, definitely. So, and you should be very what you've all done there is really cool, and I'm hopeful for the future for you. Would you anything secrets or tidbits about the storyline that's coming up that you could share?
No, because Brian's in the chat. But I did see you in chat today. I appreciate that. No, because Urban Bohemian, one of our characters. Wow. Wow.
Leaves.
Come back. I'll just text you to come back.
That's awesome. No.
But today was also a little weird because 2 of our people were a big bad con, so we only had 2/3 of the crew. So it was also interesting because I knew, so I don't know how you do your DM prep, but I basically keep a running Google Doc, and it's like, what happened last time, notes I want to hit this time, and then I go back and go, this is what actually happened because my plan met the players, and well, that's what happened because I didn't expect them to basically negotiate their way into killing someone. I won't say who, just for no spoilers, go watch the VOD. And then fight with people about where they are. So they're also level 19.
Wow.
And, I played some level 20 D&D with B-Dave and charity games, but there's a difference in a one-time one-shot for charity where anything goes, and this is 10 weeks at level 19. And
that's rough.
Well, yeah. Well, also we had all spellcasters today because our 2 fighters, well, not fighter, but like Kent is a rogue, and Latia's character, or Dahani, Latia's character, is a monk. A level 19 monk is terrifying.
Okay, I can imagine. This is another craziness of mine. So, 42 years, highest level character brought up from first. Tanya, you want to take a guess?
Level 10.
16.
Okay.
60 straight class halfling thief.
Okay.
Yeah. But normally what we do is, and we have 27 different adventuring groups, so we're a little crazy. But usually 13th, 14th characters get up in that, where they become diplomats or overseers and all, as the campaign goes on. But but wow, I would, if I had to run with my group, level 19 characters. And Anna's played a couple high level games of mine for 10 weeks. I don't know. Oh my gosh, even with old school, I can't even imagine. It's just,
Oh, it's interesting because I think, and Brian, since you're in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. So Dahani, Latia's character, is 18 levels of monk and 1 level of artificer for some reason. I am playing a paladin ranger combo with 1 level of barbarian because I want to rage. And I think everyone else is not multi-classed. I think everyone else is straight through.
Yeah, and that's a little different from. I play the old school style, Tanya, where you go, you can even triple, like Lord Gazumba. Gazumba's a character, Fighter Clerk Mage, where it's, that triple, and it's not, they all go up at the same time, evenly split, which is a little different than the 3.5 third edition and 5th edition, where they stack upon each other and you can have the multiples. So it's an interesting concept, but it appears that in most editions, that straight class character, which goes up faster, and they have all in that one thing, for the most part, they tend to be the ones at the end that are so uber, because those powers, that 20th level power or whatever. It's neat. It's a neat thing. So,
yeah,
how much of a challenge is it for you in that level to challenge them? Is it
a lot, because today I freely admit I kind of had the Githyanki pirate or buccaneer that they faced off against, because I also wasn't sure if it would turn into combat, because Brian's gonna laugh at me or text me and yell at me. These are some of the most combat averse, let me talk my way out of a fight people I've ever met in my life. So they will do everything in their power not to have a fight.
okay?
Wow, rolls. Wow. Well, it's been nice seeing you. Goodbye.
Sometimes you gotta fight. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. But like without having without having the fighters there, you want to make sure you don't. So this is how ignorant I am on 5th edition. Is magic resistance still a thing in 5th edition? Is it spell resistance? Like you can cast fireballs and it's not doing anything to the Githyanki or whatever.
Yes, because I'm trying to think. I know that Celise is unable to be frightened or get sick and certain other things as a high level paladin, because most of her levels are still in paladin.
Yeah.
And I know Fen, as a draw Dhampir warlock blood hunter, had a lot of spell resistances,
Yeah.
but also most of her rolls she had advantage on, and that was just
Yeah.
how blood hunter's built.
That's how it works. You can have immunity or resistance to certain type of magic, and also to certain type of conditions that magic causes, so to speak. So against the grapple condition, or against the poison condition and stuff like that. So in that way, I really like how it affects, because it's not just like a slam dunk one or a percentage. It can vary. It can be vary on different things. You can be resistant or immune to certain types of magic, but it can also be to certain results of the magic you can be resistant to. So it's multifaceted, and I kind of like that, both from a caster and from it makes the game more complex, more fun, without making it too more complex, because you use the advantage or the immune things. So I really that's one of the, I think, they're really well designed in 5e, and I play a version of 5e, so a fork of it, so to speak. So therefore, but it uses that type of mechanic, and I like that much more than, the spell doesn't just work, so to speak. It's
I mean, we had that a little bit when we had our kind of big fight against Strahd and then Aslan. Because Aslan and Strahd are Dark Lords, so they have so many legendary everything. But then one of our players, DJ Knight, was basically, by the time we got to those last few episodes, he was now a Lugaroo, and he now had legendary actions and resistances. So it's just like, I'm just gonna sit here. You all let me know when you're done. When it's my turn.
Yeah. So you get a little bit of that in 5e too. I've never played 5e that high level. So you get a little bit of like 3rd edition, when they can go on forever doing things at high level.
Depending on how things go, because, so if a round happened and then DJ could be like, hold on, I still have a legendary resistance or action or whatever. It's like, well, this whole episode is now combat. Not in a bad way, but.
Yeah.
So, Tanya, I got a little quick funny story about 5e. And so we were on a show, The Big Bad, They
God.
asked me to put together a
Oh
group.
no.
A fun.
I feel like there's a story to this and how
Yeah.
Anna reacted.
It was Anna, myself, and the Naz, Brian Sublime, and William Henry Dvorak, and we had who's called Dreaded DM, and Stefan Bacorny had a team with Luke Gygax on it.
Yeah,
and all.
he was supposed to compete against other teams
Yeah, on different
playing the
episodes.
same adventure and see who can get it done first, so to speak, and survive the best. So yeah.
We came in dead last.
Yeah, because
Oh,
we
no.
took it as a regular game. It took us
Yeah.
half through the session before we realized, we're not
Yeah.
supposed to be just have
The world
fun
of
and kill
5e.
things. We're supposed to get to the end and solve the adventures. So to
We're like
speak.
checking for traps and stuff. Everyone else
and
had
others,
I
they
was
just
oh my God.
ran up there and
Yeah.
solved it immediately. And we were goofing around for
But that
2
was
hours.
5e. Yeah, the 5e
Yeah.
experience there was interesting to say the least. But
Yeah.
failing saves and just oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But getting back to I'm gonna if you're okay, I'm gonna ask one or two questions I would normally ask in the DM's roundtable. Like
Mhm.
Tanya, I'd love to know who's your DM or D&D or tabletop RPG when you're GMing inspiration? Like who's you're like, wow, I love this person's style, and I pulled a couple of their aspects of the game, what they do, or I just, I love the way they storytell. Like who inspires you?
So luckily Eugenio's not here, and hopefully he's not watching this because he'll turn 8 shades red. But to clarify, there are plenty of my friends who DM that inspire me, but I don't take anything from them because B Dave says this all the time. You DM how you DM, you tell your story how you tell it, and your story is there for you to tell, not anyone else. That said, Eugenio Vargas, DM Jazzy Hands, is probably one of the best DMs I've ever had a chance to sit at a table with. Because he's so expressive, he's so evocative, and just the way that he can weave a story, and also just his joy in storytelling. The fact that you can read almost every emotion on his face as he's telling a story. B Dave is a master, especially at high level, and I got a chance to watch him do Invite to Party Live, and watching him not just corral people that were all mostly new to D&D, do it with a great flair, hit beats, go to commercial break and come back and not lose the thread, and do this within 2.5 hours. There's not a lot of people I think could do that well. And I'm going to embarrass Brian in the chat because he probably will disagree with me. Urban Bohemian and DM Jazzy Hands co-DM'd our 11th season because Brian had never DM'd. And so they co-DM'd in our very first episode of that season. The way that he brought Tyr out, as in the deity Tyr, because that's Lisa's patron, and the encounter between Celise having lost her faith and lost her way after taking revenge on someone in a very dishonorable way, and the way that he drew her into this conversation, also kind of accepting who she is and what she could do. And yes, Pyra brought up also tears. I was tearing up for real during the scene, and we found out afterward it was all improv.
Wow.
And then during our finale at PAX, they kept this secret somehow, that they had brought in 6 of our friends to play NPCs and bring their characters to help us in this fight against the White Dragon. We had no clue until they literally stood up in the audience.
Nice. So that's cool. That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And that is something like the unexpected, where you have your group of players, but there's someone else. I've done that once or twice. I did that during our Grand Joust once, where I had someone after 2 hours of it. Remember, I had Mike Disney come in. I had this evil cavalier show up, Sir Vargan the Unmerciful, and it was like, oh my God, that's cool. That I love that. That is a great idea. Having that interaction beyond the normal group, yeah, very cool. Yeah. Anna, do you have a question of that? Would you like to ask?
Yeah, I
Tanya?
have one question, that because now I've seen so many cool stuff you're doing, meaning you're juggling in Indiegogo, you're doing all sorts of projects. What kind of advice do you have to us mere mortals who want to juggle half of what you do, so to speak? What's the trick of doing so many cool things at once, and doing, how do you get one to interact, or how do you keep them apart, or allocate time or energy and stuff like that between projects?
So I too am a mere mortal. If you cut me, I will bleed. I don't know. I just do a lot of things out of spite, and I literally I made a shirt that said I woke up I woke up with full of spite and ambition, and I do a lot of things off spite and the fact that people tell me I can't do it, and I'm a very contrary Aries that would be like, oh, you told me I can't do it, cool. But a lot of it is also I work for myself. I set my own schedule.
Yeah.
I do try to wake up at the same time every day. Don't always get there, but also, and this is one thing I try to do, and I've seen this from people. Something I learned from other people who work for themselves: have a cutoff of after X time at night. I'm not looking at work email on the weekends if possible. Like, have cutoffs and have, like, if you have a day that winds up being no meetings, sleep in that day, get some stuff done, or say, okay, Friday morning, if I have no meetings on this Friday, I'm blocking off my calendar and I'm going to catch up on admin, or I'm going to do my laundry. I'm going to sleep in. And make sure that you make time for you, because I was burning out very quickly. I still burn out a lot. But also knowing when to ask for help, which is something I still struggle with, and realizing that it's okay to fail. Because so many people get very stuck on, I can't fail, I can't do this, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You can fail, except in some cases, failure has not murdered anyone. And learn from those failures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great advice.
I find that, and Tanya, I completely understand that. I find the need that on here, what's my next challenge, right? Like, okay, I got rejected for partner 12 times. And the 13th was like, woohoo! Right? What's next?
It was lucky 13.
Yeah, that's my lucky number. I always wore that when I played hockey too. It's really funny. And then, Anna and I were working with this thing with your Lord. The next challenge. What else can I do? What other? Gabriel, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Saying you're sorry. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I understand. Discuss, it's really it's good to chat, it's good to talk, and let's hopefully we all leave and we all have a little bit better understanding of everyone here, and we continue to grow the communities, all the communities. I think that's the most important thing. But I want to constantly challenge myself here, and there's only so many hours in a day. I have a 12-year-old son,
and a full-time job,
job, and a wife that is very, very, very understanding, who hasn't thrown me out of the house yet. So for doing all the time on this, and it's a balance, But what is the next challenge? And so I know you want to keep Rivals afloat. Is that your main focus right now?
It's a split between that and just getting Motherlands.
Okay.
Well, so I can't say which publisher, but we do have a publisher lined up.
Cool.
As soon as the ink is dry on that contract, we will announce it.
Awesome.
But it's now kind of collating the pages and getting a manuscript of them and go, here, please make this into an RPG book. Like, the art's phenomenal, most of the writing's done, just kind of, all the little last minute things of like the foreword, the intro, all that stuff that you can kind of do later. But I don't know, for those that may or may not follow me, Dave, he posted today that his father passed. So
oh man.
we've already said, hey, do what you got to do. So the book will be out at some point next year, but the important thing for me right now is, one, getting the signed contract, and two, giving them a manuscript where I can be like, please tell me this is all you need for like the next week so I can do nothing. Because I really just want to have a week where I literally have no meetings. I can sleep in. I can just play video games and not think about anything.
My
Understood.
trick is to try and have 1 day per week when I'm not by my desk, so to speak. So I
Yeah.
have 1 day away of going hiking, doing other stuff, just sit on the couch and read and do other stuff. Because otherwise, I tend to. It's hard to follow though. The last last month have been terrible because I haven't had a single day. Now I'm trying to get back to it again to have a day
Yeah.
off at week from once a
Well,
week. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's why I started to. I learned to make dice during the pandemic
Mhm.
because it was something to not sit at least not on my
Oh, you
computer. I
mean
mean,
crafting your own dice?
yeah, I bought some resin molds, bought resin, kind of
Oh,
learned how to do
cool.
it.
Yeah.
And so while I am in this room, I'm facing the window. As long as there's daylight and it's not a bad day, I've got the windows open,
Mm-hmm.
got music going. Sometimes I would stream kind of taking the dice out of molds, inking them. So it was just something to do with my hands that did not involve playing a game for an audience or writing for work versus for fun. And I had a lot of fails, had some dice that were goop, literally goop because I didn't set right, because I didn't mix it right.
Yeah.
But it was something just to challenge myself, but to use my hands. I've always been kind of a more hands-on make things person versus a type and stay glued to a computer person.
That's understandable. Keeping, I mean, it's a balancing act between keeping busy and monotony, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to write 3 pages today.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey, Bill. So there's Bill, the Master Crafter.
Hello.
Tanya, he's
Yeah.
without Bill, I don't have a tabletop. Okay, and that's just bluntly honest. How good he is with stuff, and just wonderful, wonderful. At his trade here, let me link his Instagram here so everyone can take a look.
Yeah, and I think I saw Painting Pirate in the chat.
Yes, I reached out to him via Whisper and said, "Hey, reach out to me. Maybe we can do some collabs or talk about stuff too." Yeah, absolutely, that'd be awesome.
But Pirate is someone who's, also I just learn a lot from him, and also our friend Zerjester, and Awkward Panda. But Pirate in particular taught me about underpainting, which I had no clue about, for a speed painting technique, and I was like, oh, I could paint things far more quickly than the glacial pace that I go at right now.
Well, I'll if you've seen from when we started streaming in early 2018 to now, I mean, Bill's we require a painted miniature. We used to say they had to be metal, but now with the Bones 5, Reaper has such great plastics out in the 3D printing. We have a painted miniature for every character in our campaign. And that's roughly, I don't know how many.
Over
I'm going to say,
2,000 then, at
well,
least. Yeah.
that's PCs and NPCs. But for player characters in the group, I'm just going to say roughly 300 individual painted miniatures for them.
Yeah.
And Bill's, I mean, you could see the progression, right, and how fantastic this last grouping is. But for us, like Tanya, a new group takes 6 months because what's the character going to be? Well, now we got to get a miniature for it. Now Bill's got to paint them all. It's a long process you wouldn't even think about as far as going into what we require of our group, but like just that in 3D printing, it's just so much fun now. It's just changed the game. It's changed our game, and yeah, and if I'm babbling, I apologize. There's no right or wrong way to play D&D. Miniatures, Theater of the Mind, VTT, a combination, pen and paper. That's the great thing about the game. You can play it however you so choose. That's why I think we love it so much.
Yeah, and I wish that people knew that, because even early into Rivals, because I believe Sharif, Cicero, and Brandon had never played before. And when we got to the point where Sharif was kind of feeling like maybe he could DM, and he did it, and he was great. Afterward, he was like, I was afraid to DM because I felt like I had to know every rule in the book or people would judge me. And I'm like, people are going to judge you because we're here. You know, there are going to be people, unfortunately, that, you know, came into our chat, called us slurs, called us names, or they basically were like, they would backseat us. They backseat us now. They backseated during Black Dice. And it's like, we're playing D&D. How do you back? And then I was like, wait, it's Twitch. That's how.
Well, just, you know, I know you're coming to PAX, so
Yep.
I know you have a live Rivals. I just saw that pop up,
Mhm.
so that'd be cool. I'm gonna try and catch that. And it's beyond that. Tour wise, how many cons do you do a year? Is it 6, 3? You're like, enough, right?
For me, and this actually came up because of a tweet I made about Big Bad Con and not being there and having FOMO. It all really depends. So with PAX, as long as I'm paneling, I'll go. Because I also can conduct business, especially with PAX Unplugged. You know, now that I'm doing way more RPG stuff, it's more businessy than it was before. The first couple times I went, I was on panels, but it was still more fun. Now conventions are work. If I am not either on panels, invited, or have a business reason to be there, I don't go because, as people know, cons are expensive. Because someone, and I don't know, I didn't know how to parse this, but I admitted to my FOMO of not being a Big Bad Con. I'd been before, I'd been a guest, and seeing all the people that some of them I haven't seen in years, all there posting photos. Also, everyone was masked. Seeing today, like Matt was there, and I mean, granted, I just saw Matt like a month ago, but still. And someone was like, "Well, don't you ever go just for fun?" And I was like, "No." Well, it's expensive, and surprise, working for yourself does not mean you have all this extra money.
Right.
A big chunk of travel has always been either someone's invited me, someone's reimbursing me, it's covered in some sense.
Right.
I've been very fortunate in all the things I've gotten to do. A lot of other people were footing the bill, or I had minimal personal expense. So, right. And Brian got exactly like C2E2 is my home convention. I can take a cab, go to C2E2 all day and sleep in my own bed. I cannot do that even with Gamehole Con. I've got to rent a car, get a ride, be in a hotel. You know, and with Big Bad Con, it's in San Francisco. I'd have to leave Thursday, come home tomorrow. We would have missed an episode of Rivals because 3 of us would have been there. But yeah.
Run into the same issue. For me, it's work. Reaper sponsors the channel, and I haven't been to a Reaper Con. I mean, Bill and I are like, we got to get to Reaper Con next year.
Oh yeah, you have
but it's every Labor Day weekend, and it's like, if I go and I leave my wife and my son here, I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying?
You have to stay home a couple of other weekends.
It's rough, and so I usually hit PAX Unplugged because it's right outside where I live. Oh, thank you, Henry. Thank you so very much. And Rel, I apologize. And then. But Gary Con's the big one for me every year is. And what
I've never been. I missed meeting Luke at Gen Con this year by like probably an hour. And again, everyone's like, "Why aren't you at Gary Con?" I'm like, none of you invited me to a panel, and I had no clue how to submit panels. Right. But again, I would have had to rent a car, get a ride, chip in for gas, and gas is $8 a gallon right now.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand, just like we had to have a conversation about actual plays costs, doing this professionally when you have to foot the bill for everything.
Right.
It's expensive. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, my last overseas trip, luckily it was covered, but I still spent extra money out of pocket because I elected to stay because who knows when I was going to get back overseas.
Yep.
Absolutely it is. It's an expensive undertaking. But you know, it is that's a great con. I mean, just Luke is such a wonderful person. He is, and he's doing the right things, and he's really you know, opening up some neat ideas to keep that con just growing to the point where it can grow out there at Lake
I was just
Geneva.
going to
There's
say
no,
it's
I
starting
mean,
to
yeah.
be limited by the
Yeah.
facilities now and the number of hotels and rooms to be in. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people I know. Like Curtis, will be there. Curtis is part of the winning group from the grand tournament there.
Yeah.
Man, we partied all night that Saturday night. Remember Curtis? That was a wonderful thing
Oh,
last
yeah,
March.
that was
Well,
fun.
I just hung out with him.
Mhm.
Just some wonderful meeting people. And cons are a great thing to do. And I was just, yeah, I guess, that is a definite. Imagine going to all the PAXs and going to Game Hole and going to all the other ones that come up. There's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about a con every month now. It's just,
Yeah,
it's
I
nuts.
did
Yeah.
for about 6 years. I did a convention every 2 months, so I did 6 conventions a year, and that was thanks to people inviting me, and I worked for various companies and stuff in their booths and stuff like that. That covered the cost, most of
Yeah.
it, not all of it. You still had to, just the parking fee when you went to LA was $100, or you took a shuttle or something to the airport, that was $100, and no one covered that, so you have to, and then you have restaurants and stuff, so it still cost money, but it was still manageable because it was not adding up to enormous amount of money. It was still manageable for me, so that made it possible. So I'm so grateful to all the ones that helped me go to conventions, so many conventions. And the same thing with GaryCon next year. That will, I'm invited as an industry professional, and I'm also, we have others who help me. Josh Pop and others will help me out by giving me some room and board before the convention, picking me up at the airport and stuff like that, so I don't have to rent.
You're
a
hanging
car
out at Josh's house again.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
With his wife.
I'm
And
really
kids.
looking forward to family, and there will be some other people
That's
might
cool.
show up too. So it's great, and that helps so much, because if I had to rent a car, paying all the parking fees and all the gas money and all that to go everywhere, that will add up significant amount of money to add. So yeah,
and that's the great thing about the community here that's grown. People help each other out, and I think, and I'm proud of this community. I mean, no community is perfect, but I'm proud of. Curtis said it a little earlier. I'm proud of what we've grown over the last 3-4 years. So let's keep it going in a positive direction. So Tanya, we've taken up most of the time asking you questions. Is there anything you'd like to ask us or ask the community in general, or any commentary you'd like to make, please? Phil?
Oh, there's commentary I want to make, but it would be so rude.
Well, I loved your Twitter name change. I saw that. You named yourself Villain. That was pretty cool.
Well, so someone apparently reported a tweet that was over a month old, or they just now got to it. But I thought it was very weird timing that the day that the Tesla man bought Twitter, I suddenly get locked out for 12 hours for a month-old tweet.
Oh, that's weird.
And then that my post on Facebook complaining about being locked out of Twitter also got reported. So I was like, yeah, this is now my villain arc. This is now my villain arc.
Well, understood. I mean, we get, it just, wasn't the world a little better back in the day without Twitter and without all that? Where we could just
no. So I think that all this stuff still happened.
Yeah.
We just didn't have social media to throw in our faces.
True.
The second
I was just
it
going to
happened.
say, exactly. That the good thing is that it's both good and bad that is out in the open, so to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the things we did, people act like stalkers are a new thing, or I mean, because what Jodie Foster had that dude show up that thought he was married to her or something. I remember that. That was way before internet.
Well, yeah, and then he shot Reagan.
Right. So, all the things that we are seeing real time, and we get to see real time because it happens, and everyone's got their phone out. Everyone's like TikTok. And God, I sound like such an old person right now.
That's okay.
But,
you're in good company.
Oh yes, we are older than you.
But I've got a tech degree. This is what I do. But I realize I sound like such an old grumpy person.
No.
But we didn't get to see like people, and not that we want to see, but like you don't see people getting beat up real time in the street for doing something wrong. We don't have basically snuff videos on Twitter when people are killed by the police within moments of it happening. And everything is like right now, and there's no there's no the news cycle is not what it used to be when we were kids. There was the 10 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news. You didn't hear about on the news unless it was mostly verified.
Yeah.
You
Now
didn't hear about someone dying before their family did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's everywhere, constant.
It is.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you a question. So, you want to play sometime in the near future in an old school 1E2E miniatures terrain game?
It depends on how long the game
Sure.
goes, and when this might happen.
No problem.
Because the irony is, I've got a bunch of terrain when I was still when a friend still worked at WizKids. I was still on their influencer list. I've got like terrain tiles. I've got a billion minis. I've got stuff. It's just I have a decent sized apartment, but there's still like right now my craft table is literally covered in minis and paints and other stuff. So it would all just really kind of depend on when, what time, how long the game goes.
But the answer is not no.
Not know until I get details.
Of course. Okay. That is better. That's I will take
Good
that.
answer.
So for example here, I'm gonna share this. This is the Grand Joust picture from Virtual GrowCon 3 we just had. Luke Gygax participated, Lissa Fade, and this is my gaming table. So
nice.
There you go. Yeah, and we had it was a fun time, and that was what we and that's my basement there. So I got just some fun thing, all crafted 3D prints, me per Miniature Building Authority. So something like very visual game, and it's old school, and it's just different. Like I said,
no, I mean I love that stuff. I really enjoy seeing what people do for creativity, for what they can do. Our friend I mentioned, Sir Jester, he actually made me, and granted I asked him for it, but he still made it. Percy's gun from Critical Role. He handmade this, including the stand. And he makes terrain and all this other stuff. He's actually just starting a YouTube series on kind of making this stuff and getting into the hobby. Because again, it's not cheap. I will put that in the chat.
Yeah, please do.
But because the other thing is, a lot of people just don't feel like there's a place for them in the hobby, or they think, oh my God, if I don't have like a house and a full basement where I can do all of this stuff and wargaming, I might as well not get into it. So
that can be farther from the truth. People just need to know that you can play with nothing really. I mean, with only your imagination, if you so choose. There's a lot of, but you need to know, and we need to welcome everyone. So it's good. Hey, Kate, good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, Kafir.
That's some emotes to come in with.
Yes. Kafir. All right. So a good story about Kafir. I always like telling this. We have our annual fundraiser for St. Jude, and it's every February, and Kafir makes these KV guard. He made one for Greyhawk.
Goat skin maps.
Yes. And probably retail for $3,000 to $5,000. The ones he made. He said, if you guys hit $20,000 of donations, I will give this away. I will give this to you. So we did 20. We had the previous year had done 10. We did $20,500, and he was kind enough to donate that. And Rob Phantom NJ got it because he was the top donator. In order. It's just wonderful, wonderful people in the community. And I always like to say, Kafir, thanks. Always like to see. And Kafir actually was here, played one night. Was here with the guys, and Anna's been in the basement, and she got out. She got out too. She survived. So
I'm not going to get stuck in a basement easily.
Yes, exactly. So my basement's open to everyone.
Our for all that we kind of started off on a negative note,
it's okay.
The community can also be fantastic. I was just on a charity stream Friday for Waiver Ripe Crisis Center, and it was level 20 D&D. It was they'd opened up the fundraiser a few days before, but it was B-Dave DMing, level 20, and it was myself, Ginny D, Shar, who works for Wava, Alicia Marie, Jeffrey Cobb, who's from 3 Black Halflings. I always mess up the name. I'm sorry. And I'm blanking on one of the other players. Well, and me. And it was all level 20. It was all for charity. I forget what we started at, but we ended over $7,600 after a 3-hour game.
That's awesome. It's such a great feeling. And just knowing that, and it's not like the times are easy right now, too. And 2023 may be even more difficult. So, but it's just a way we try and give back here, and it's great to see that, you know, how generous people can be in the community. It's good. It's a good feeling. And
Yeah.
listen, Tanya, and I think this discussion is going to help. I mean, today, that's there's talking is, you know, and getting to understand everyone's viewpoint, I think, is a healthy thing. And I, you know, I just really appreciate you, you know, coming on and giving us the opportunity to you know, to discuss this with you. So I know we're getting close to that 2-hour time for shout outs and stuff. Would you like to, seriously, whatever you want to say in closing, please, for this discussion,
Shout outs and
please
stuff.
do.
So,
Tanya, what would you?
Well, wow. Well, if anyone in the chat has questions, we'll try to squeeze one in.
All right,
But
that
in
sounds
terms
good.
of
Yeah, please throw out a couple
shouting,
questions.
in terms of shouting people out, my whole Rivals crew, especially Urban Bohemian, he is one of my longest friends, and I think we're getting close to 25 years being friends through LiveJournal. You know, obviously B Dave, he's a great friend. You know, not just a RPG giant. He is a wonderful, amazing human. You know, he's actually, because I'll pre-record, he's launching DM and Player Academy. I think that went live today or will go live tomorrow. It is on his Twitter. Let's see what else. Obviously, Urban Bohemian, Painting Pirate, Zerjester, Awkward Panda, all stream. They're all great people. DM Jazzy Hands, Eugenio Vargas. He'll be back tomorrow, and actually tomorrow night, if you like Rivals and you like Idle Champions, all but one character is now on Idle Champions for Rivals Waterdeep.
Oh, cool.
And they're doing Idle Champions Presents. It is episode 3 or 4 tomorrow. And both Brian and Eugenio are on there, along with Anna Prosser, Clay Conrad, and Tristan Falcone. And they're all on there as characters. Who else can I shout out? Obviously, you know, Rivals fundraiser, and you know, find people and support them online. Walk the walk. A lot of people they talk a good game. They say pay artists what they're worth, and then the minute the artist says, "Well, this is what I'm worth," then everybody's like, "But not like that, not that much." Find people's Patreon. The first is Tuesday. Throw a couple bucks into Patreon if you can. I see where that's going, Orchid.
So Orchid actually has an interesting group, she's actually in Chicago. So, and you know, you may want to reach out to her via Whisper. But they 10
My
players
whispers are
DM.
closed.
Also, Lee asked if you ever played the Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
I have not had a chance to play it. I would like to play it. Maybe 10 people is a whole lot of people.
Yes.
That might be chaos.
Yeah, I don't know how he does
way.
Orchid's been a great contributor to the community and into discussions and all, and she's you know, she's really cool, and I would love to just be a fly on the wall with that one. That's a lot of people, you know. So
yeah, that 6 is usually my max. But yeah, find me on the Twitters. I've got a business email out there. Just throw me a note or try to follow me. Let me know you saw me in here, and then my DMs are not open, but I will try to remember. Hopefully your Twitter and Twitch are the same.
and also you can always use me as an intermediary too. Okay, you know, but your Cypheroftyr, your Twitter direct message.
Everything is for you because I follow you.
Oh, okay, cool, very cool. And that's the thing. Please, community, you know, reach out, follow. Let me shout out there. Reach out and follow Cypheroftyr. Also, check out the Rivals afloat, and note that you do. They do not have to get to the goal for it to be worthwhile as well. It will be all utilized. It will not. It will not. Just like on Kickstarters, it won't go up. It didn't make it, so it'll bounce back. So
wow, someone said 25 with Bill Webb. No, thank you. Absolutely not.
I don't know what Try 25 is.
I think 25 players.
Oh, Well, you know,
Nope. Mm-mm.
Stefan Picorni did one at Game Hall, I think, with 20, didn't he just now?
Yeah, they had some
Yeah.
cool stuff
Hey, David.
but yeah, I guess it was
Yeah,
a con
no.
thing or something. Yeah, yeah.
No.
I have a difficulty with more than 6 players too.
No, I did the
Yep.
joust with 18, but there are 2 people jousting together at the same time,
Mhm.
and had them all, and they're all, that was a little different. So,
But yeah, I would love to play some Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I really want to get back into Vampire because I like D&D. We've been doing this show almost 5 years, but I've DM'd Dragon Age. I would love to do some Blue Rose. There's a bunch of indie games that are out. I'd like to play Stark's game, and is missing. I want to do more that's not just D&D and do things that are more esoteric, and because I feel like a lot of people when they hear TTRPG, they just hone in on D&D.
Yeah.
Because it's like soda is Coke or Coke is soda, even if you're not
Yep.
talking about something else.
Mhm.
And it's just one of the things of like I want to get my feet wet in other stuff, because like during a design meeting, there were people throwing out all these games that I'd heard of, never played, but I couldn't like grasp onto the intricacies of their design aspect because I had not actually played them. Like I've got Swords in the Dark, I've got all of this other stuff. I have played Kids in the Hall. Masood DM'd a special run of that with us for Rivals.
Warhammer's cool too. Like, for me, I'll throw in a once in a blue moon, and we got one December 17th in the morning. BattleTech stream. Get some sci-fi action going in there. So we'll even do that. So change it up a little bit here and there. So any questions for Tanya before Anna and I do a couple quickie shout outs? We'll do the giveaways, and we'll find someone to raid into tonight. What a great discussion. Hopefully everyone.
I see the soda versus pop discussion is trying to happen in chat.
Yes. Well,
spoiler,
subs.
I don't care.
It's like subs and hoagies, right?
Subs, hoagies, Coke, Pep. Because my first time in London, I asked for a soda, and I'm thinking Coke, and there was just this moment of what? Because their soda is fizzy flavored water. They're like, "Oh, you're American, yeah." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we know what you meant." Y'all can argue about this all day. No one cares.
I agree 100% on that.
I have a beer. We're past carbonated beverages hour. I have beer at this point.
Excellent. So,
any last questions? I guess not.
Well, they are. If a question pops up, we will take it. How's that? As we're going, but I'm going to throw this to Anna. So, fantasy mapping show coming up. November is stacked, everyone. I count this as the kickoff for greatness of November. This discussion here. So, Anna, what else you got going on besides this wonderful?
Yeah, we have
show.
The fantasy mapping show with Ed Greenwood. This is the one I've looked forward to since we launched fantasy mapping show like well over 2 years ago, almost. And it's to discuss the realms, geography and cartography and stuff of the realms. That will be so much fun with Ed. So there is a lot of interesting questions I want to ask him. And so
I gave something away.
Oh yeah, exactly. You gave something away.
Sorry, I'm trying to stack them here.
Yeah, but on the my Patreon front and my Greyhawk stuff, there is the heraldry is now almost complete thanks to Gary's input.
Awesome.
I'm working on the last little piece, and there will be like 13, 14, 15 or something like that. It will be 16, I think, once they're done. So I have one Death Knight left to do from that, and Gary and me conspired to make the heraldry for it. So it's one to make. It's not the most difficult, but I think the most cool in a way. And it's the hacks version. I forgot the name now. It's something hacks. He's the one that left. We've done all the other ones, and the good guys too from Old Grey Kingdom. So that is coming hopefully within a couple of days. I can wrap that one up. And I also want to announce a secret letter project that I spilled the beans on the Cannon Fire Discord chat the other night.
Yep.
And I'm also working on a historic map of Flannies back in the early Flan days of the about 2000 something years.
That time?
Yes, Vecna time and early on. That's I'm working on a map. So I've taken the Flanny's terrain, shrunk it down 25%, and I'm going to present my vision of what I think the Flannies looked like in the early heyday of the Flan, when the Sual Empire was around, the Bakloonish Empire was around, Vecna was up and running, the old Flan Lich kings and stuff like that were active, and so on. So it's my take on what the landscape looked like, that then later led into the stories we all know, so to speak, when this is like just before recorded history kind of started, so to speak. So I want to have the Flannies that kind of led into all the stories that we have played out and read about and stuff like that. So that is a project coming, so to speak. So I'm
awesome.
So that is the and it's my geographical take and stuff on it, so to speak. So
David Leonard Snafu says he's working on some early Flan history too. You may want to collab with him.
Yeah, sure,
So
definitely.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we got a packed week, so let me throw through some things here really as quickly as possible. So no game Thursday. All right, I got plenty of people out of town, and Eagles are playing Thursday night, so I beg. But we got another game. So Wednesday night we start the week off. Wonders of the Bright Desert, Rari's Land. Les Oblivion Seeker will be joining Anna and me as Mike is out. Greyhawk Mike's out of town.
I might be a little bit late. I have an appointment with DMV earlier, but we hope that we can get back. We have it 2:00, so hopefully we will be back here by 5:00.
That's
Pacific
Wednesday
when it starts. So yeah.
I missed it. See, Jay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I'm really looking forward to
Saturday morning. A Saturday morning special. Mike Disney. We're going continuing adventures of Skarn the dwarf. Anna's playing her character Imri, her ranger mage. Stiletto Assassins. Yeah, spelled stiletto wrong. So we have April Hill coming back, and she's going to be playing her fire elementalist. All right, and Billamaster Crafter. And we may have one or two other special guests coming in. Chuck from Troller may be coming in. I may be asking one or two others for that one. That's Saturday morning, 9:30 to 1:30. That'll fill our adventures. And then next Sunday, we get back to our Dungeon Magazine adventures in Greyhawk. Continuing, right, Anna? Part 4.
Yep.
We'll do part 4 next Sunday. Now,
for me, it's a very important series because it gives me a lot of work. So, yeah. So, sorry, Jake.
Gives you more work than you need to have, right?
And
here's the big one. It's been asked for. I have 2 special groups going on Saturday nights, alternating them every other month. I have Ed Greenwood's 2 Drink Minimum, and I have the Slob Squat Squad, the all-female cast. All right? You got it. You wanted it. You got it. They're joined a crossover event on Saturday, November 12th. Okay? I got Ed Greenwood with Tony Winslow Brill right now from 2 Drink Minimum. Mandy, Myriad, Bones, Darling, 1 or 2 others. Yes. There you go, Andy. I know you're excited about it. All in one adventure. They're going to have to work together. So I got 1 or 2 finally. So a crossover event for them on that on 2 Saturdays. I'm so excited. Should be fun. I don't know if Ed's going to explode or not, but it'll be. He's really looking forward to it too. Ed plays a Greyhawk mage, custom class. So I know it's going to be nuts. It's going to be insane. They're such great players. That is on the 12th, and then the next day, Sean Reynolds is coming back. What a great author for lots of content. Sean Reynolds will be coming. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in Living Greyhawk Journals, all the monsters he made, the Slavers reference, all the other references he's done over the years. His time at WotC. We're going to talk with Sean. It'll be a great discussion, and then more stuff's coming. That's enough, right? That's enough for now. We'll talk about. So we got the next 2 weeks of November covered. So let's do the giveaways. Like I said, this is an original. Best of Dragon Volume 3 to celebrate 9,000 followers on Twitch, and then a $25 gift certificate to Troller Games. First winner, tell me which one of the 2 you want. Second winner, you'll get the other. Sound good? Last call. Exclamation point drawing. Please feel free. Everyone's welcome to sign up. Do we get any other? I'm sorry, Tanya. I wasn't looking. Did we get any other questions as that was all going on?
No.
Okay.
It passed so quickly, chat. That
I know.
Crazy. Yeah.
That's good. Chat is really burning through. All right, let me do this real quick, and then we will. We're going to raid into Guild Superior. I think Guild Superior is going to be on for a little bit there, Rob. If you did say it, I missed it in chat. Just want to make sure that we have someone who's going to, we're not raiding into the. Yes, I do. I do, Kafir, and we're going to do some of that more when we're going to do some more crafting things. I want to give them away then. I have them still, absolutely. Like I said, yeah, I really appreciate it. We're going to keep on rolling them out. So they're still going, but Dave hasn't responded. Okay, thank you. We'll go and we'll take the shot. Here we go. The winner. It's a casualty. Tell me which one you want. It's a casualty. You have to be on the claim. The Best Dragon Volume 3 or the $25 gift certificate to. Yep. Which one would you like?
Awesome.
You got it. I probably have it. Full name and address. Whisper it to me, but I probably do have it in my USPS list. But please just send it to me just to verify. Next one gets a code, and that is Phantom. 491 Phantom. Grats, man. All right. Awesome. Tanya, thank you.
You're welcome.
Really
thank you.
appreciate it. I really
Great.
do. I mean, it was just wonderful discussion. And maybe we should hang out, have a couple drinks at PAX. You know what I'm saying? Afterwards,
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll get in on Thursday.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'll talk with you via message, and we'll go from there on that. Philadelphia is an interesting place now. Some really good bars, though. Really good locations in the city. So thank you also very much. What a great show. Look at it, 9 o'clock. Boom. Right on the nose.
Mhm.
That was lucky. Normally we run very late. So see you all Wednesday night. Thank you. Anna, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Tanya, thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah.
And
You're welcome.
we'll see you all soon. Now I always hit wrong buttons now. I always hit
Well,
the
we'll
wrong
see
button.
what we end up. Yeah, it's like a lottery when Jay
New button.
starts spinning on that thing.
All right, we're going to raid into Guild Superior, okay? Have a good
All
one.
right.
Let me, Tanya, you can hang on 1 second here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Like, stream's over. Gotta go. Bye.
Go!
Well, we've had guests that we've had.
Leonard Lakofka. Oh,
He
my
just
God.
popped in and out, and since he knew the Zoom code,
When he wasn't
just
even
popped
invited.
Exactly. When he just popped in the middle of the stream. He just, hi, I'm here, and he said something, and then he didn't say goodbye or anything. He just and disappeared.
Because
So,
you probably realized later.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, wait.
yeah. It
Leonard
so
was an
funny.
interesting soul.
Yeah.
We miss him dearly.
Yep.
He passed. It's been, what, a year and a half?
Yeah, something like that. He passed on early COVID.
87, 88. Nice raid size. See you all Wednesday night. Thank you for the support tonight. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you soon. Awesome. Just make sure it went. Twitch is wonderful.
Yes, he went 89. Good.
Awesome.
Good number. Yeah.
Very cool. So, all righty, let me end it.